is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Yeah, in kind of a roundabout way, if you want to put it that way. We're, I'm the only one in studio. So if you're watching on CRN Live, there's only the one camera, and I'm sorry you got to look at me. Matt will be by phone here in a moment. Producer John, as always, capably handling things on CRN Live on YouTube. We appreciate you joining us as we've got plenty to get to this morning. In fact, Matt is on the phone for a reason. We're going to do Hot Topics, kind of a way of doing things right at the beginning, and then we'll talk about all the rest of the stuff. We're going to get into silly season. It's affecting several of the series that we cover on a regular basis. Yeah, one we don't actually in this case. 2026 NASCAR schedule still being worked on, leading to more and more rumors. We'll talk about one of them. How Stuart Friesen's injuries will affect his team in the upcoming playoffs, and another major injury in the Xfinity Series. And that's just for starters. It's next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Four tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
We are back indeed, and if I did my job correctly, that means Matt is on the phone and can hear me without a whole lot of feedback.
That he can.
Hey, cool. What do you know? I'm out of practice on that. We haven't done this since last football season, so, it's been a while since we've been doing the whole by phone thing, which brings us to the point of why you're on the phone, because, Matt, you're playing coach again this year, right?
Yeah, I'm down at our local rec league down in the city of Munford and helping out teams this year. We have our first preseason game today, and we've got not a terribly early kickoff, but early enough to where I've got to go on the road. So I'm in traveling right now down over to Lincoln to where we're playing the preseason game that day.
So you're actually going to be over by our other home, Talladega Super Speedway, too. And that means... Yeah, exactly. So we are going to do what we did last year, which is with the limited time that we've got with you, we're going to kind of do some hot topics here. And I allow you to choose which ones that you want to talk about. You chose 4 specifically for the 2 segments that we've got together here. So let's talk about one of the ones that we dealt with during Cross Flags, and we dealt with the injury a lot more during the podcast. So feel free at any point in time after the big show is done here to go back and check out Cross Flags if you haven't already, where we dealt with the Connor Zilic injury. It was kind of a good news, bad news day for him. As you probably know by now, he won the race, so that was the good part. Bad part came in the post-race celebration. He did the mandatory TV trackside interview, got his Junior Motorsports number 88 in the victory lane, was going to get the trophy and do the radio and the track PA interviews, but he never got that far. As he started to climb out of the car, he started the celebration by standing on top of the door windowsill. And then as he was getting ready to jump down, he started to twist a little bit, and he said it this way, quote, "I was climbing out of the car. Obviously, the window net was on the door, and as they started spraying water, my foot slipped. The next thing I remember was being halfway down and falling. So glad it wasn't any worse, that the collarbone was the extent of the injuries. I hate that I couldn't make it to the race today." He was talking about, doing the Cup Series race last Sunday. To give himself a good shot and a good result for Trackhouse and Red Bull Racing, which is probably where he's going to be next year on a full-time basis. And so here's the thing. After falling and being treated on site, he got taken to a local hospital, diagnosed with a broken collarbone. Luckily, that was it. He was released later in the evening at the track on Sunday with his arm in a sling and seemed to be in pretty good spirits. If there's good news here, he's got time to recuperate. Xfinity Series is off this weekend. Truck Series ran last night. We'll detail that in a bit. And, of course, the Cup Series is tonight. Xfinity Series resumes next weekend at Daytona. The series preparing for their playoffs. And he was asked about it last Sunday on television. Said he didn't have a timetable for his return behind the wheel, but said he's optimistic. He even cited his part-time and probably soon-to-be full-time teammate, Shane Van Gisbergen, and said, quote, "We're still working with the doctors to figure out what's going to be the next steps. Got a little motivation from Shane, my teammate, because he said he had a plate put in and raced the very weekend after he broke his collarbone. I don't know if it will be that quick, but hopefully my young bones will be able to heal fast and I'll be able to get back as soon as possible." And the funny thing is that he's already had one medical waiver granted this year. Would it be unprecedented to get 2 medical waivers in a year if he were to request it?
Well, honestly, with him already having that one, I kind of don't know if they'll even request a second one because he's already got the one in his back pocket.
That's a good question. That one earlier this year was from a lower back injury that he sustained in a crash at Talladega. He missed the very next race at Texas. Kyle Larson took the 88 car over at that race and actually took the car to victory lane. Here's the part where you wanted to get in and talk about this, Matt. NASCAR got asked about that celebration this week. Mike Ford, who is NASCAR's managing director of communications, said on the Hauler Talk podcast that the sanctioning body wasn't going to make any mandates or legislate how teams celebrate wins, but noted that they'll work with the tracks and maybe look at some precautions to try and keep something like Zilic's injury from happening again. Ford said this, quote, "We have not put any policies or best practices or anything like that. I think it was part of the problem that the window net was flapping on the outside. I think Connor even said that might have been a problem, and one of our safety guys actually mentioned the same thing. So we may just sort of do a check to make sure that's inside of the car. It's one less thing that you can slip on." He also didn't mention a possible waiver request for Zilic if it was requested. It's weird to me that the question would even come up as to whether NASCAR would mandate how you would celebrate a race, because we have that's part of the enjoyment of it. And it really doesn't matter what series you're in, but if you think about over the course of time how post-race celebrations have kind of evolved, and drivers like to make it their own thing. I mean, Carl Edwards doing the backflip off of the car. You got Ross Chastain smashing the watermelon. You got Kyle Busch, who would get out of the car, and especially when he was being booed a whole heck of a lot, he would bow to the crowd, just making it their own. Why would you legislate that? Why would you even consider it?
To be quite honest with you, and the first thing I thought of when I read this and I heard this is that this Hauler Talk podcast they're doing now is becoming one of the more irrelevant things I've ever seen. Here's why I say that. Because some of the absolute dumbest things I could ever hear regarding motorsports have come from this platform. Why would limiting a celebration for a driver when they won a race, whatever it will be, maybe a crown jewel race or any other race, why would we even have it in the realm of possibility or the realm of thought to limit it? That is theirs. That is their own.
Yeah.
Let them do what they want to do to celebrate winning with their team.
Sure.
And I'm pretty sure that I said on Cross Flag that the entire part of the problem was the window net was laid to the outside and not the inside. Because when you watch that video in slow motion, you can clearly see the window net move. The window net was on top of the door. Yeah. And when he placed his foot on the window sill, it slipped in between the door bar and the seat.
Yeah.
There's your problem.
Yeah.
You turn it to the inside, that's not a problem.
If you are looking at, and I'll try to describe this for everybody who's listening on the radio as best I can, but if you're looking at the picture that we will put back up on CRN Live on YouTube, he on the left side, he's standing there, and you can tell he's kind of turned a little bit, and it has brought up the window net, so you can tell that the window net shifted. So really all he did was just move his foot, slide his foot around in a counterclockwise motion, and it brought the net up a little bit. And then when he started to make the move, and, you know, when you're getting ready to jump, you start to shift your entire bit of weight. And
sure,
that's what kind of caused his feet to slip out from underneath him. You talked about it on Cross Flags as well. He's actually quite lucky it wasn't worse, because the picture on the right shows him in the process of almost hitting the pavement, but that would be his left leg right there. That could have easily gotten stuck between the B pillar and the seat. And that would have been at least one break, maybe a compound fracture in his leg and ankle area. So that could have been a heck of a lot worse. And you and I were talking about it as well during Cross Flags on the podcast, and the fact that I honestly thought he might have suffered a concussion, but he said CT scans were clear.
Yeah. He's extremely lucky that his foot didn't get caught right there in the process of going down, because of how it would have gotten caught. His lower leg would have had a bare minimum one complete break. Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, he did get lucky. And this is that cautionary tale for the teams. And now the teams need to understand, okay, this is what we're going to do. And you just get on the radio. You know, obviously you got to do this before he gets out of the car and does the post-race TV, because he's not hooking the radio back up once he gets back in the car to take it to victory lane. So you got to make sure that during the cool down lap, as he's getting prepared to unhook the radio, you say, hey, listen, don't forget, take the window net, put it inside the car, one less thing to worry about.
Yeah, I see no harm, no foul with that at all.
Okay. Are there any, and you're the driver here, so I'm going to leave this to you. Are there any other precautions that you as a driver could foresee that you would make before you allowed the driver to get out of the car and do the celebration?
Other than just turning the window net to the inside to where you're eliminating slipping and falling, other than that, no.
Okay. Nothing immediately comes to mind. In other words, it doesn't mean that something else might not pop up, but still. Is there I don't know if there's something that you could put on the top of that windowsill that would make it even better. Is there? That's within NASCAR rules.
There's really nothing, because they wouldn't allow anything to be put up there, because they wouldn't allow it to be put right there on that specific part because of how the air goes around the car, and it would deflate air and possibly cause an aero advantage or a disadvantage, however you may look at it.
Okay.
Because anything that's raised above that surface on the air that's above a 1/16 of an inch, we'll call it that,
right,
that would be constituted as aero advantage.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's go to subject number 2 here. Let's talk about the truck series, and it seems like silly season is really affecting the truck series here. For example, Nice Motorsports has basically swiped a driver away from Spire Motorsports to fill out the remainder of the 2025 season. We talked about this on the show last week, and the fact that they let Caden Honeycutt go, right? Well, they needed to fill the seat of the number 45 Chevrolet Silverado, so they ended up getting Andres Perez de Lara, who has been in the number 77 truck for Spire. De Lara was given permission to seek other opportunities recently, and when Honeycutt was cut, he ended up talking to Nice, came to terms with them over the weekend. He'll start in the number 45 car. He actually did, or 45 truck. He actually did last night in Richmond. He's got Telcel, Claro, and an Infinitum. There's a good one. Who's going to be his longtime sponsors that'll move with him to Nice. He'll have longtime number 45 crew chief Wally Rogers calling the shots. It's easy for me to say. It's early in the morning. I'm sorry, and alliteration is not necessarily a strong suit of mine. But Nice did say that some other changes would be effect in Richmond. Landon Polinsky is going to be the new crew chief on the 42 truck, moving up from the race engineer position, and that will allow Mike Shiplett to call the shots on the 41 truck, which made its season debut last night in Richmond. Drivers Josh Balicki and Connor Jones remain in those 2 trucks. So let's start with there. Andres Perez de Lara going over to Nice to fill that role. Good move? Is it a better move for the driver or a better move for the team?
It's a better move for the driver, because apparently right now Spire can't get their collective heads out of their rear end to figure out what they're doing and what's going on, even on truck and cup. Because and actually the way it looked, that way it shaped up for Nice to drive last night. Matt Mills was in at 42 as usual. Bailey Curry took the 45, was in the 45 last night for Honeycutt. Perez de Lara was actually in the 44 truck.
They keep changing stuff.
41 was, the 41 was driven by Matthew Gould, which is Phil Gould's son, a short track racer in Virginia. He drove the 41 last night.
Okay.
And actually, out of all those, I'm pretty sure, and me not looking at it with my eyes and what I remember, Perez de Lara had the best finish out of the entire team. And he was, I think, 15th, if I'm not mistaken. The one thing I can't get my mind wrapped around is, why are we doing all these driver changes right before the playoffs, and why are we doing all these changes and swaps for no reason?
Yeah.
Perez de Lara, you got a clear-cut rookie that is in his rookie year, but we're stopping. We're not doing what we're doing. We're going to stop the team. We're going to let him go. Somebody that's bringing a substantial amount of money to your team from Telcel. Telcel is not a small company by no means.
Not at all.
Bringing in substantial money, but we're going to let him go. We got to make room for Corey LaJoie.
Yeah. Well, since you mentioned it, I'll go ahead and say it. Spire decided to bring Corey LaJoie in to fill out for the regular season 77 truck. So this is his opportunity to get back into racing on a regular basis. This was something that he basically kind of said, no, I'm not going to do at the beginning of the year. But when nothing else full-time came about, he understood that. So he will fill out the 2025 season in the truck. He'll also have a chance to race for a title, obviously not a driver's title. But what Spire has done is they've taken the owner points from the 07 truck and put them on the 77. The 07 truck was already in the playoffs for the owner's title. Team said that they don't have any plans to run that truck anymore, so they're assigning all those points to the 77 and using Cup Series veteran Corey LaJoie to do it. So it kind of made sense for him to do that, since you know that you're going to run that truck. You've got a Cup Series veteran there who knows how to wheel a race car at the very least. So it does give him a chance to win a title at least. But we keep hearing rumors that Spire might be thinking about getting out of the Truck Series altogether.
Yeah, because apparently, and it was acknowledged by a person in this organization, and it's on record as being acknowledged, because apparently colleague is looking to jump into trucks. So
Yes.
are they going to acquire the assets? Possibly. Are they going to? It's so unknown of what's going to go with what, because it's like the way the rate things, everything's going nowadays is it's like, oh, okay, let's wake up and let's just cause chaos today.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to sell everything we got and pick up this person or pick up that person or whatever.
Is there a chance that Spire might try and are they? I guess the question would be: are they just going to soldier on to the Cup Series, or are they going to maybe start an Xfinity operation, or what?
As bold as Spire is with making moves and doing things, I wouldn't expect anything any less. I could see them diving off into Xfinity and probably being Hendrick's farm team for Xfinity, if you want to call it that.
Both for themselves and for Hendrick, and let's face it, Junior Motorsports is already in that situation anyway.
Sure.
All right. We've got two more subjects that we want to get into. Number one, we don't generally talk a whole lot about a series like World of Outlaws, but there was a story that came down earlier this week, just a few days ago, actually, just a couple of days ago. We need to get to that because that's pretty big. This is a long-time partnership that has broken up. Plus, while the 2026 schedule isn't out yet, we still kind of keep hearing rumors and drips and drabs. We'll get into one of the latest ones on that next.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Matt on the road right now, making his way towards checking out the kids, getting ready for his 2025 football season here. We are looking ahead to the 2026 season, and here's the deal. Until we get a schedule out, which, according to one report, we might see the schedule as soon as sometime this coming week, if reports are to be believed. But, that's just one that's reporting it, and that's The Athletic, which sometimes they're really good. Other times they miss the mark by a wide margin. So we're not sure where they're going to be on this one. But in that same article about the fact that they think that we might see next week or this coming week or the next week at the latest, the 2026 schedule for the Cup, Xfinity, and Trucks, because they tend to put them all three out at the same time. They have floated a rumor about the All-Star race. And the All-Star race, as we know, has kind of brought North Wilkesboro Speedway back to life. It was dormant for, 2 decades?
Yeah,
at least?
25 years.
25 years, okay. So it was dormant for 25 years, and they had Dale Earnhardt Jr. get interested in it, and he got iRacing to come out there, so they kind of cleaned it up a little bit so they could do a mapping of it. And then they put it up on iRacing in the old form, and then there was such a big clamor about it that they brought the All-Star race there even before they started to redo the entire track. But it was such a big deal that they realized, you know what? Let's go ahead and do it. So they invested the money, did a repave of it, redid some of the infield, and made it look really, really good, presentable, up to date. Save for, and I love the fact that they did this, they left the old Winston Cup Series logo up on the building, back at the grandstands.
It's a glorious sight.
Yeah, it's a fantastic thing, and I love the fact that they preserved that and they kept it. And to the point where it sold out the last couple of years. Now, the track isn't a big track. It's not like they've got, 100,000 seats going around there. But at the same time, this is one of those things that the reason why it went away was because we were starting to see the people kind of drifting away from North Wilkesboro. Or at least that was the excuse. It
really wasn't. It really wasn't so much as that. It was so much as Bruton Smith had Texas Motor Speedway built, and Texas Motor Speedway had to have a date.
Right.
So he
took it away.
He bought North Wilkesboro from the Staley, and poof, there goes the date.
Yeah.
Adios, see ya. No more.
So we've kind of wondered whether or not this might herald a return for North Wilkesboro to getting a points race. Well, that brings up the Athletics rumors situation. They're reporting that next year there is every possibility that they're going to move the All-Star race away from North Wilkesboro Speedway. So let's deal with that first. Take that race away. Again, it's a non-points race. It's a money grab. We all know that. But we've accepted that because it's a chance for us to see 20 to 25 drivers, give or take a shot at $1 million. And we've seen some really, really fun all-star race results over the course of years.
Yeah.
So they're talking about taking it away and giving North Wilkesboro a points race. You for that?
I'm not against that. Here's why. Because the all-star race being 200 laps, it's being up there in May. It was an intriguing show to watch.
Yeah,
it was an intriguing race to watch. How everything played out, how everything was, minus the gimmick promoter's caution, which everybody said would be thrown with 50 to go.
Sure.
And sure enough, it was thrown with 50 to go.
Right.
But I'm not completely against them having a points race, but where they would take it from and basically do a heads-up swap, I'm screaming from Mount Everest and Mount Kilimanjaro on top of each other. No.
Okay. We'll get to that here in a second. Obviously, all-star race, big money grab race is going to be a shorter race. Okay, so as you mentioned, it was 200 laps. You figure an actual points-paying cup race is probably going to be a 400-lapper, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure, at least.
Okay. The racing that you saw, and the racing that we've seen on television over the last couple of years, you think it's going to be good enough to be able to make it 400 laps? Or is that going to be compelling racing?
The way Wilkesboro is now with the repave and how it got from year 1 to year 2 on their repave when they repaved everything.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I think it could be good, very good enough because of how the grooves are and the tires that they took and how the racetrack took rubber.
Okay.
And it just basically it made it a really wide racetrack. Yeah, put me in that category of I think it would be more than sufficient enough.
Okay. And you know, the main reason to ask that question is because you and I have been the first people to admit it, and NASCAR has said it as well. So they even admit the weakness of this Gen 7 car is short track racing.
There's a lot more to a weakness to that car than just short track racing.
Well, yeah, but
yes,
if it's the biggest weakness, the biggest weakness is short track racing.
Yeah, I say so. Yeah.
Okay, so you think they're kind of being able to figure out a workaround at least until we can get a car that maybe has a little bit better ability to run short tracks and all the other tracks at the same time? Because it does seem like what we've been dealing with lately is if it's good at one place and you want to make it good at a place where it's not really, you end up taking away the good from where you already were in transferring it over to someplace instead of spreading the good out.
For sure, yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll see about that, but that does bring us to where you've been. Now, the All-Star race has been traveling around here lately, and it's certainly not the first time. The All-Star race, yes, it started in Charlotte and then went to Atlanta before going back to Charlotte where it had been for the longest time. And then we saw it kind of move around a little bit. They took it out to Texas. You went to that one, and you said that was hot as Hades. And then
to directly quote Dave Moody on the broadcast, it was hotter than hell's doorknob.
There you go. And so they've kind of brought it back into the North Carolina area, which I think makes sense because, again, that's where the teams are housed. It makes it a home game for them, and that's not a bad thing at all. But now they're talking about doing a direct swap, like you mentioned. They're going to take it out of North Wilkesboro, give North Wilkesboro a points race, and in the process, you would take away a points race and give the All-Star race to Dover?
As I said, you take Mount Kilimanjaro and Mount Everest and stack them on top of each other and put me at the highest peak. I don't care if I have to wear a spacesuit in the process to stand on top of it, but I am screaming along with many other people, no, 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 no. Because if you do that, in my opinion, you're essentially killing the All-Star race dead.
Dover's that bad for you?
Dover does not sell me for an All-Star race.
Okay.
I would rather the race go to somewhere, go back to Texas than go to Dover.
Okay. If you were to choose your ideal track to take it to, if you were going to move it away from North Wilkesboro, and let's presume for a moment that it's got to stay within the SMI crowd because that's where it seems to be remaining for the most part. So let's say you have to stay within the SMI tracks. Of all the SMI tracks, presuming, of course, they don't return it to Charlotte, what's your ideal track that you would take it to?
Call me crazy. Call me insane. Get the weed eaters out, clean the track up, clean the facility up, take it to Kentucky.
And I got to admit, I'm a little surprised that we haven't heard that as a possibility. I'll be real honest with you.
Take it to Kentucky.
We're seeing all these revivals.
Yeah. You're at a mile and a half, one. Two, you're within the SMI family.
Right.
3, you got the ability to keep it running at night.
True.
You got that ability.
All right, let's.
So I mean, I don't understand why Dover is even on the radar because it's yeah. That's all I can say. Yeah.
Okay, and let's now open it up the whole way, and just say it can be at any track. I don't care who owns it. What's the ideal track?
Quite honestly, I think it should go. It should go. Quite honestly, you take the roll away and put it back in Charlotte. Bring back the back-to-back weeks at home.
Okay. So would you take away that weekend at Charlotte in the playoffs altogether?
Yes.
Okay.
Give it to.
Would you
give that date to?
Would you give it to North Wilkesboro?
I would say the weather would be sufficient enough. Yeah.
It's not that far away. You're just kind of up in the mountains a little bit more. That's not a big deal.
Sure. Yeah,
okay.
It's not bad.
All right. Playoff race at North Wilkesboro and run back-to-back weekends at Charlotte. Hey, it's not the craziest thing I've ever heard. I'll be real blunt when I say that. It's not the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
So
let it ride at that. I mean, to me, that's an ideal scenario and an ideal setup.
Okay. We'll find out whether or not this story has any teeth to it. Like I said, they think that it might happen maybe as soon as this week. We'll find out when it comes to schedules sometime within the next couple of weeks if the Athletic is to be believed. Time will tell. I mean, again, yeah. I've said this before. I will give NASCAR some credit in trying to be creative, but at the same time, are you trying to be creative at the expense of common sense? And this kind of does catch me as not being, to me, the ideal place to go. I mean, I don't mind Dover for a race, but I'm not so certain that it's the ideal place for an all-star race.
Yeah, it's not, because, it's just not. I don't want to go off of those rails, but it's not.
Okay. One other bit of news here, and again, I think we've mentioned World of Outlaws from time to time here, but we don't talk about it a whole lot, just because they run so many races. We would be running around like chickens with their head cut off trying to keep up. It's not to say that it's not good racing. It's actually very good racing. We're about to show you a picture of one of the racers, actually very, very cool little racer. But this being the big news that it is, because this is Tony Stewart, Curb Agajanian Racing. They've partnered with longtime driver Donnie Schatz. This is a partnership between driver and ownership that lasted almost 2 decades, 17 seasons to be exact. Schatz joined Tony Stewart's World of Outlaws organization back in 2008, and they began a very successful run. Heck, he broke out by winning the first couple of races that they ever were driver and team owner group. That first year, they won 18 races, and their first title together turned into the first of 8 titles that Donnie Schatz procured for the ownership group, along the way claiming 9 Knoxville Nationals, 5 Kings Royal races, 3 National Open wins. And all since 2008, Schatz has claimed 234 feature wins. That puts him second all-time on the driver-owner pair list, behind only Steve and Carl Kinzer. And let's face it, if you know anything about racing, you know the name Steve Kinzer. Press release from Tony Stewart said this, quote, Donnie has been an incredible part of TSR for nearly 2 decades. Helped put this organization into what it is today. We've had a driver-team-owner relationship that's gone beyond partnership. He's become part of my extended family through the years, and I have the utmost respect for him and what his career represents. He's a generational driving talent. So he says all that, but yet he still parts with him. Did the performance of that 15 car fall off that much?
Unfortunately, it did, and that was one of those head scratching moments of why that 15 car fell off like it has this year, because it's not even been in the same zip code as it normally has been.
Wow. So this is Tony Stewart understanding that friendship is one thing, business is another.
Sure. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's what that is. So to fill out the season, Tony Stewart, Curb Agajanian Racing has turned to a driver nicknamed the Madman. His name is Kerry Madsen. He'll fill out the season. He actually raced for Smoke back in 2021 and won 3 races for them back then. So what do you know about Kerry Madsen? Is he going to be able to come in and really pick up the whole thing and make it run to the finish line, or is this going to be a slow build towards something?
He'll get in and be able to stabilize the program, and then they can, in the off season, they can reset and see which direction they're going to go.
Okay.
He will stabilize it for sure.
Is Kerry Madsen a viable candidate for a long-term seat there, or is this just a stopgap until they figure out who they're going to go with?
Oh, he's beyond more than a viable candidate, in my opinion.
Okay. Then there's Schatz.
Very viable.
Schatz, who not surprisingly quickly landed another ride. It's on a part-time basis. It's a group called Big Game Motorsports. They're based out of Brandon, South Dakota, which is, just south of where Schatz was born and raised, which is in North Dakota. He's going to run for them a 7-race slate that'll actually begin this weekend. So, again, he doesn't have a full-time ride. As I noted, Schatz, 8 of his 10 titles came with Tony Stewart Kerr-Bagajanian Racing. 234 of his career 315 wins with them, but like you said, he's been surprisingly absent from victory lane this year. This kind of goes back for me, though, to what we were talking about when it came to the Truck Series. Caden Honeycutt, and then you get the situation with Andres Perez de Lara in the fact that we're going to make this change midway through the season and figure out a way to get to the finish line and end this year and do the reset and get into next year. This is kind of that same situation. Is this a head-scratching move that they made it now instead of waiting until the end of the year? Or is this just one of those things where, kind of like in the Truck Series, let's just go ahead and make the move now and get prepared for what's to come next year?
It was kind of a head-scratcher, to be honest with me, because it's, with only just a handful of races left, why do we make these radical changes? I mean, finish the year out and then push the reset button, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know. It's just a head-scratcher.
All right, so I'm going to, real quick before I let you go, I'm going to put you in the place of Donnie Schatz. You're the driver. Tony comes to you, says, hey, listen, we're going to go ahead and make the split. I know we've been together for 17 years. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to split. We wish you the best of luck. You as not just the driver, you as a driver probably understand things change all the time. You're never guaranteed anything for a long time. And 17 years is a nice long run to be in one car.
Sure.
How does this affect, how would this affect, do you think, the friendship that you have as Donnie Schatz with a Tony Stewart?
It's been going on so long with them, I don't think it's going to affect them that much. It's just business is business, because with Schatz landing with Big Game, that's the equivalent of somebody driving for Rick Ware and Cup and getting a ride at Roush.
Okay.
You're landing very, very softly.
Okay.
He's going to be in a very, very, very good race car.
And Kerry Madsen comes into a situation where the car should be very good, and it's just a matter of figuring out what the missing link is, so to speak?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So the compass got fouled up, basically. We're just trying to get it pointed back in the right direction.
Yep. That's it.
Okay. All right. So like we said, you're doing coaching this year. You've got a little weigh-in sort of situation coming up this morning in kind of an all-star event. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, it's kind of like an all-star game this morning to get everything going and get everything ready to go and see where our team lines up. The season starts first week of September fully. So this is preseason, and we're playing Oxford this morning. So we're going to get a real good gauge of where we stand at right now.
Okay. And so that means you'll be back in studio next week, right?
If nothing happens, I should be back next week, yes.
There you go. Okay, and we'll talk about it a little bit more then, because we'll kind of get a better idea of what your schedule is going to be like at that point in time. All right, good luck to you and the boys, and hope everything goes well, and we'll talk to you next week.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Matt. We appreciate you. All right, so we'll let Matt go here as we keep on trucking here on this particular edition of CRN. Yeah, it's just me. Unless you're on CRN Live on YouTube, where producer John's going to be able to chat with you as well. But he's going to be busy because he's got a whole lot of stuff that he's doing on his end. So make sure that you say hi to him. I know he'll appreciate it. We'll get back into kind of the regular scheme of things. We'll do the recap, get you set up on points. And that does include last night's racing as well. Truck Series and IROC.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Only, fuel only, go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Yes, we are back. Appreciate you joining us. And for those of you that remember last week, I vaguely do, you might remember that I was celebrating my birthday right here on the show and appreciated all the happy birthday wishes and everything. And now you can turn those over to producer John because his birthday was actually yesterday. I'm going to head on up there after the show. Nice little cross the state of Alabama trip for me to go see him, and we'll celebrate his birthday. Again, he officially celebrated it yesterday. We're going to celebrate it today. So happy birthday, brother. And thank you for everything that you do for the show. All right, so let's talk about last week real quick. Connor Zilic, of course, we talked about him winning, made his mark in grand form at Watkins Glen in 2024 by claiming the pole and the title. He dominated the race at Watkins Glen again last week, led 60 of the 82 laps run, even though it took some extra time due to a track record 16-car crash with only 8 laps left, brought out a 45-minute red flag. He got up front, pulled away from Sam Mayer. Sam Mayer had claimed the win at Iowa. Won by more than 2.3 seconds. Mayer in second, Sammy Smith was third, Austin Hill fourth, Carson Kvapil fifth. Rest of your top 10. Justin Allgaier, Austin Green, Christian Eckes, Brandon Jones, and Harrison Burton. We got into the bad news, so we'll not worry about that. You know about it by now. He's got 6 wins on the year, just one shy of the Xfinity Series rookie record for wins. That was 7, set by Christopher Bell back in 2018. Obviously leads the championship seeding order with 6 wins. He's trailed by Justin Allgaier and Austin Hill with 3 wins each. Single-time winners Sam Mayer, Jesse Love, Brandon Jones, Sammy Smith, Nick Sanchez. Drivers in on points after Watkins Glen are Carson Kvapil, Sheldon Creed, Taylor Gray, and Harrison Burton. Harrison has a 30-point lead over his cousin Jeb for the final slot. Jeb, not a good day at Watkins Glen at all, so he is basically in desperation mode almost. Saturday evening, Girona Dragway, Milan, Michigan, IHRA Pro Mod Nationals, won by Randy Weatherford. He claimed the number 1 qualifier, rolled through all of his opponents, made it to the finals. His foe there was Kaylee Mills. She was the number 7 qualifier. Weatherford was the quicker reaction time, ultimately claims the win, a 3.601 ET, 210.38 miles per hour. That win means he captured the $125,000 to win event. Congratulations to Randy Weatherford there. Speaking of the IHRA, they were in our backyard in Steele, Alabama, hosting the Sportsman Spectacular. Winners Joseph Newberry in top box. Tucker Gray claimed the win in the mod no box category, and then Grace Varner claiming the win in the junior dragster class, and that means all 3 are now qualified for the Summit Super Series World Finals. Those are going to be held later on this year in Steele, Alabama's Alabama International Dragway. We're going to try, Matt and I, to make it out there at some point in time. I've never been to that facility in Steele, even though it's relatively close, so I do need to get out there. Then there was the race and potentially a title to be claimed out west as Indycar took to Portland International Raceway. Will Power is fighting to keep his ride at Team Penske, but everybody's been kind of overshadowed by those efforts of Alex Palou. Well, Power made his mark on Sunday last week. He got out front and by not letting it go, ended up claiming the win over Christian Lundgaard by a rather slim 1.53 seconds. Not too bad at all. Marks the first win. Think about this. This is how dominant they've been with Alex Palou. I know, kind of getting sick of hearing about him, but this is how dominant they've been this year. This is the first win for Team Penske at all in 2025 in the IndyCar Series. If they had gone through the year without a win, this would have been the first time in a dozen years that Team Penske wouldn't have won a race, at least in the IndyCar Series. So Will Power is able to avoid that. Lundgaard settling for second. Palou could do no better than third. Graham Rahal fourth. Alexander Rossi fifth. Callum Ilott sixth. Scott McLaughlin, Marcus Armstrong, Felix Rosenquist, and Colton Herta fill out the top 10. Now, we talked about it going into last weekend's race that he needed to be within 108 points to send the title fight to Nashville. Well, Pato O'Ward had a day to forget. Ended it 10 laps down at the end. Officially finished 25th out of 27th. So that means Palou is your 2025 champion, even though 2 races are left in the 2025 season. Sorry about that, boys and girls. Speaking of which, there was a race between last weekend in Portland and Nashville, and that is Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. There's an outside chance that he might have been able to push it to Nashville, but all those hopes went out the window. Palou on top of the points race by a tune of 626 to 475 over O'Ward. Scott Dixon's then third with 411. Christian Lundgaard at 398. Probably not really a battle for second either. The battle is going to be between third, fourth, probably fifth, and so on, and we'll kind of detail that as we get further on down. Scott Dixon 411, Christian Lundgaard 398, 387 for Kyle Kirkwood. So yeah, we're still battling for position here beyond first and probably second place. Lewis Foster continues to hold the rookie points lead, but this is still close, 189 to 183 over Robert Schwartzman. Jacob Abel's out of it, but he's in third at 107. And then Honda still got a healthy lead over Chevrolet for the engine manufacturer's title. Mathematically still possible for Chevrolet, but that might be closed down after the next race at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. Honda leads 1,389 to 1,177. Sunday up in the Northeast, Watkins Glen, the Cup Series got to racing there. Going in, Shane Van Gisbergen had a chance to claim the mantle of most wins for a rookie in a Cup Series season if he could claim his fourth race win of the year, which unsurprisingly he did. Initially, it seemed like things might have evened out a little bit. Ryan Blaney, who was the pole sitter, actually could at the beginning keep SVG at bay, but as the second stage made its way into third, SVG began to assert his dominance, and he only, I use that term very, very loosely, led 38 of the 90 laps on the day, but towards the end he was walking away in the final 17 of those laps. Claims the win by a rather dominant 11-plus seconds over Christopher Bell, who could do nothing but watch the 88 Trackhouse Racing entry get smaller in his windshield. SVG and Bell 1 and 2. Let's see. Then you got Chris Buescher, got William Byron, Chase Briscoe. Ryan Blaney finished sixth ultimately in what was a decent run for him. Daniel Suarez in one of his better runs of the year, seventh. Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, and Ross Chastain filling out the top 10. So here's the deal. Denny Hamlin, SVG now lead the standings, 4 wins each, 3 wins each for Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, 2 wins for William Byron. The list of single-time winners rolls on with Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, Chase Briscoe, Bubba Wallace, Joey Logano, Ross Chastain, Austin Cindric, and Josh Berry. In on points, that continues to slim up a little bit. And here's the deal. We've got Richmond this weekend. We got Daytona next weekend. So for all intents and purposes, Tyler Reddick at 117 over the cut line. He's not locked in, but he's all but. Alex Bowman 60 up. Chris Buescher at 34 over his pal, his teammate, Ryan Preece, for the final playoff spot. Not a comfortable seat at all for either Bowman or Buescher. Kyle Busch needs a miracle. He could technically, mathematically make it in on points, but he would need a whole lot of good stuff to happen, being 102 under the cut line with 2 races left. We'll try and deal with that a little bit more a little bit later on. This weekend's racing actually got rolling yesterday morning. IROC Series running the Unser Family Cup race number 1 at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Yes, it was an actual race, not just a drive-around exhibition. And no points here. Drivers got into what kind of turned out to be an extended qualifying run for this morning's race. So we'll get into that. Yeah, there was a little bit of, not beating and banging, but there was a little bit of competition on the track. Quickest lap around pulled by sports car driver Tommy Dreese. He was driving a 2004 Pontiac Firebird. He lapped WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, the track with the famed corkscrew going down the hill. 1 minute, 35.451 seconds. Trailed by Kurt Busch in a 2006 Firebird, Scott Borchetta in a 1994 Dodge Avenger, Bobby Labonte in a 2001 Firebird, rounding out the top 5, Ross Merrill in a 1978 Chevrolet Camaro. You want to talk about the big difference between the last generation of the IROC cars and the 1978 second generation. Remember, there was a Porsche 911 in there as well. 5th place, more than 3 seconds off the fast time set by a 2004 Pontiac Firebird. They'll race a little bit later on this morning. I can only find it on YouTube, so it might be worth searching out if you're interested in trying to see some of these cars and the mix of cars. Because, again, you go all the way back to 1976, Porsche 911s, the second-generation Chevrolet Camaros. Then you get into the third-generation Camaros, the famed IROC Z era. Then you get the Dodge Daytonas, Dodge Avengers, and then they finally switch over to the Pontiac Firebirds. You get them all. There's at least one of almost every one of those out on the track during this, so it'd be worth checking out if you're very interested in that. Very, very cool stuff. And yes, they say they are actually going to race. Again, I don't know how much beating and banging they're going to do because I think they want to respect these cars, but it should be interesting to see. And then last night, Craftsman Truck Series, Richmond Raceway running the Eero. Yeah, it's spelled E-E-R-O, Eero 250. The drama actually wasn't really in who was going to win the race. We kind of figured who it was going to be. It used to be we would pencil in Kyle Busch whenever we saw him entered into it. Now this year, we're kind of figuring it was going to be Corey Heim. Spoiler alert, it was. Really, we were more curious as to who was going to make the playoffs because last night was the cutoff race for the playoffs in the Truck Series. Heim, with his win, marks his 7th win of the year, his 18th Truck Series win of his short career to date. He's probably going to have a pretty long career if everything works out for him. He claimed the pole. He led 143 of the 250 laps, so that was never really in doubt. Heim was trailed by Ty Majeski, Lane Riggs, Sammy Smith, Corey LaJoie. We'll get into that. Gio Ruggiero, Jake Garcia, Ben Rhodes, Chandler Smith, and Caden Honeycutt filled out the top 10, despite the fact that he had another new truck that he was driving. So here's, with those results, the 10 drivers in the playoffs. Here we go. And we'll get to it more in the news in detail. Stuart Friesen did not apply for a playoff exemption. So with that, the 10 who will vie for the 2025 Craftsman Truck Series title, Corey Heim, who will go in with a pretty big gap already with his playoff bonus points throughout the course of the year. He starts with 2,065 points. Lane Riggs has 2,026. He's second. Chandler Smith is your third seed at 2019, 2011 for Daniel Hemrick. Tyler Ankram's next with 2010, as is Ty Majeski. Grant Enfinger, 2007. You got Rajah Caruth with 2005. Caden Honeycutt with 2003. Those are all the guys who have wins. Then there's Jake Garcia, who's got 2002. Two-time series champion. Let me see here. What do we got? Grant Enfinger didn't win. Rajah Caruth, Caden Honeycutt did. Jake Garcia rounds it out. He's the bottom seed with 2002. So your two-time series champion. Think about this. He's out. Gio Ruggiero, the heralded rookie, despite valiant efforts. I'm sorry. I should have said it's Ben Rhodes. He's out. Gio Ruggiero, despite a valiant effort and a run, which we talked about making the top 10, not enough. So they'll just miss out, and they finish 11th and 12th. So there is a bonus for finishing first driver outside of the points or outside of the playoffs. Ben Rhodes claims that. So here's your schedule for this morning here, and then we'll go to break. This morning, IROC back in action at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. They're going to run the Unser Family Cup Rolex race. It'll start at 10:55 a.m. local time on the West Coast. That's 1:55 p.m. Central Time. It's about a 25-minute race. Again, no television that I know of. Might be able to find it on YouTube. Tonight, Cup Series heads to Richmond for the one race there this year, and it is a sellout tonight in the Cup Series. It was almost a sellout last night for the Truck Series. It'll air on NBC and MRN Radio. Starts at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. And for those who are curious, even though it is on NBC, it's not on Peacock. We talked about this during Crossed Flags. It's no sense in trying to go over the insanity that is NASCAR's inability to figure out, hey, if we're going to set up a contract deal with a television network, maybe we should also think about the streaming side of it. Apparently they didn't. Short track ace, by the way, Ryan Preece is going to start from the pole, so he puts a little bit more pressure on Chris Buescher there, even though he's 30 points behind Buescher. It does put a little more pressure on him. And then Sunday belongs to the NHRA. They're going to be in Brainerd, Minnesota for the Lucas Oil NHRA Nationals. Finals are on Fox, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time, slightly delayed from the on-track action. IHRA, IndyCar, F1, and Xfinity Series are all off this weekend.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back.
It's the
tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show. Hour number 2 well underway. Thank you very much for joining me. Matt is playing Coach Matt today. He's got his youth football team out there, so he is dealing with them right now. Producer John on CRN Live. I'm right here on not only CRN Live, but of course our flagship station, 95.1 The Mountain. Thank you very much for joining us. In the hour number 1, while we had Matt, we did kind of hot topics. We dealt with the major news of the week, which was the whole Connor Zilic thing. If you missed it, feel free to go back on CRN Live on YouTube and catch up on it a little bit later on. In other series news, Natalie Decker is somebody who we haven't talked about since we gave you the news of her giving birth to her first child back in February. She's slated to change that. Next weekend, she's going to be getting into her first race of 2025. It'll be the Xfinity Series race at Daytona. The number that you see on the side of the car is not it. That's actually her sponsor, Wawa's beginning year. It's the date, the year. She's actually covering up the final number on that. Officially, that car will be the number 92 Chevrolet of DGM Racing, convenience store chain Wawa as her sponsor. If you're unfamiliar with them, they're kind of a mid-Atlantic, Pennsylvania-based convenience store. You might have seen them if you were it's no longer on the air. If you were a fan of the show, The Goldbergs, it kind of played a prominent part in that. And they've started to expand out down the East Coast. They've got some locations now in Florida, and they're starting to work their way up into Georgia and Alabama and other places. So, yeah, they're kind of expanding out. And, again, they're a big part of NASCAR. So they're going to be the sponsor for her this weekend. And that, by the way, the ride with DGM Racing will pair her with Josh Bilicki in the team's number 91. And being at Daytona, it's always good to have a teammate. And Daytona has actually been Decker's best track in NASCAR, resulting in her best finishes in her 12 Xfinity Series races, also her best finishes in the Craftsman Truck Series and ARCA Menard Series. In addition to her dozen Xfinity starts, she's got 32 starts in the Truck Series, 31 ARCA Menard Series starts. In those starts, she claimed the pole at Daytona in 2018 for the ARCA Series season opener. In 2020, the Truck Series, she finished 5th in the season opener at Daytona. Best finish for a woman in the Truck Series there so far. Her best finish in the Xfinity Series also came at Daytona in the 2024 season opener, where she claimed 18th, but she did lead 7 laps on the day. So Natalie Decker back in the car. We'll see whether or not her time away has kind of caused her talents to need the rust being knocked off or what. Then we turn to the IndyCar Series. Yeah, I know. Here's that guy again, Alex Palou. We noted it in the recap. Winner of the 2025 Astor Trophy, means he's the IndyCar champion. Marks his 4th IndyCar title, 3rd straight, and 4th in 5 years. Puts him in some pretty elite company in 2 categories in IndyCar lore. He's only the 4th driver to win 3 straight titles. That joins Ted Horn, who was the first to do it from 1946 to 1948. He also joined Sebastian Bourdais, who turned the trick in 2004 to 2007, and Dario Franchitti, whose 3 came in the consecutive years of 2009 through 2011. He's also tied for 3rd on the IndyCar all-time title wins list, putting him with Mario Andretti, Sebastian Bourdais, and Dario Franchitti with 3 each. And, of course, Ted Horn is in there as well. Trails only Scott Dixon with 6. I'm sorry, they've all got 4. I take that back. Ted Horn was only able to claim 3. So Andretti, Bourdais, Dario Franchitti, and now Alex Palou have 4. Scott Dixon's got 6. Your all-time leader, the legend, A.J. Foyt. He's got 7 titles. By the way, the title owner is Chip Ganassi, who now, with Alex Palou's win, claims 17 drivers' titles in IndyCar. Ties Chip Ganassi Racing with, I know you'll be shocked by this, Team Penske for the most titles all time for the owner. So let's get back to Pato O'Ward. Again, he finishes 2nd in the points. He's still got the 2 more races to go to try to close it up. Obviously, he can't do anything about it. But what kept him from being able to make it more of a fight at Portland, you might ask? Well, it turns out it was the onboard black box. Yeah, there is one on Indy cars, by the way. Arrow McLaren officials stated that O'Ward's car slowed down on lap 22 of the 110-lap race at Portland last weekend, and when he came down pit road to try and figure out the problem, yes, it took some time, but they finally located it. Turned out to be a loose wire connected to the black box. It caused the shielding on the wire to wear away, and that caused a short. And by the time they figured it out, got it fixed, got him back out onto the track, he was 10 laps down by the time the race was over. It took 7 laps on pit road to find. Ouch. Arrow McLaren president Tony Kanaan said after the race, quote, "It's one of those things that you don't have an explanation for. Nobody's fault. You just need a little luck to survive those situations. It was a great job from the team that all we could do is keep trying and keep pushing." And I'll give them credit. They fought real hard, figured out how to get the problem fixed. And I think in some ways, and I'll state this carefully because I'm trying to make chicken salad out of you-know-what, okay? The fact that they, instead of just saying, you know what, we can't do it, heck with it, park the car, they went down pit road and they did the searching that needed to be done to find the problem and fix the problem and get him back out there on the track. That, for the team, is, I'm not going to say a victory, but at the same time, you got to feel a little bit better about yourself at that point in time, I would think. Because, again, you could just drop back and punt. And there are some teams that would. They tried to fight through it and said, we need to be able to fix this problem so future we can say we know how to go and diagnose, and not only diagnose, but figure out how to fix the problem and continue running. I'm all about that. This is also interesting because next weekend they're supposed to be going to race at Milwaukee Mile at the Wisconsin State Fair Park, and heavy rains plagued Milwaukee area over the last weekend, and that caused some severe flooding in and around the Milwaukee area, including to the Wisconsin State Fair Park. And it's somewhat concerning considering that is, again, next weekend's second to last race of the schedule. Track officials state that they're not worried. They state the race is, quote, the Indycar Snap-on Tools Milwaukee 250, gonna go green as scheduled. I guess they're hoping that they don't get more rain within the next week or so. I haven't looked at the weather forecast for Milwaukee. I'm hoping that they're right, though. IndyCar put out a statement this week that said, in part, quote, "Throughout last weekend, IndyCar checked in with the operations staff at Wisconsin State Fair Park. Our understanding is that there's no damage to the track. However, we're planning to send a crew this week to confirm it. In the meantime, Wisconsin State Fair Park is pivoting from the State Fair to hosting IndyCar as scheduled." Imagine trying to hold a state fair while you're getting deluged with rain. Ouch. Quote, "We will remain in constant communication with their staff. Look forward to a return to the historic Milwaukee Mile next week for the penultimate race of the 2025 NTT IndyCar Series and Indy next by Firestone seasons." Penultimate, second to last. Pick your choose. A lady who has been a favorite of producer John as we turn our attention to the Craftsman Truck Series is Tony Breidinger. Tony Breidinger actually has gone to her substantial social media following here to see if they can help in getting her to recover some items that were stolen from her while they were at Watkins Glen International last weekend. She posted last weekend, quote, "My car was broken into last night. My suitcase was stolen." I'm presuming she means the car at the hotel? Because you want to talk about being bold if you did that at the racetrack? Ugh. Either way, she said it's a custom Toomey suitcase, has a TB on it. Reports state that two of her driving suits, including the one that she's wearing on the picture that we're showing on CRN Live on YouTube, the 818 Tequila fire suit, they were in the suitcase. What are you going to do with them? If you're the person who actually broke in and you took that, what are you going to do with those? If you try and sell them, they can trace you. Even if it's online, you're going to have a hard time taking it to a pawn shop because, okay, think about, for example, myself. I'm 6'3", I'm shrinking. I used to be as high as 6'4", but I shrink in my old age. But nobody's going to confuse my body style with that of Tony Breidinger. Tony Breidinger made the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. Nobody's going to put this mug in a Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. Thank God. Am I going to go up and say, here's my fire suit, I want to go ahead and sell it and see if I can't get another one? They're going to look at that and go, this is your fire suit? Don't think so. What are you going to do with this? You put yourself in a corner. Way to go. This is one of those things where you just think about it and you go, you're a thief and you're an idiot. I actually would like to say more, but I'm just going to leave it at you're an idiot. Okay? All right, we talked about all the driver swaps with Matt. Let's talk about the other big news from Nice Motorsports, because just yesterday, just before the race last night in Richmond, really, news came out. The team issued a press release, said that they actually have new majority ownership. Good night. Nice is going through all kinds of changes this year. The CEOs of the two major Nice sponsorship groups have joined forces. They'll become the new majority owners. They are respectively Josh Norris of DQS Solutions and Staffing and Greg Fowler of JF Electric. The move is not going to cause the team to change names, they said. Press release says the front office is going to look a little bit different. Cody Efaw now becomes the president and CEO of the team. Amanda Efaw becomes the chief marketing officer. Phil Gould, the longtime crew chief of the organization, gets bumped upstairs, and he becomes the director of competition. And now you have your new ownership group of Nice Motorsports. Again, Josh Norris and Greg Fowler of the two major sponsorships. It should be interesting to see exactly how this will cause changes within the organization. But it does start to explain now, hey, we've been dealing, this is not an overnight thing. Okay? If I were to, along with, and this is purely hypothetical because nobody's come to us, but let's say I wanted to transfer ownership of CRN to somebody. And John and Matt and I got together and we decided, yes, we're going to sell the majority stake in CRN to John Doe because he's brought a whole lot of money. John Doe has the right, as the new owner, to make changes. And if they don't like what they're seeing, and, for example, they know that Caden Honeycutt is not going to be there next year, and he's signed with a group that is going to be driving another truck make other than the one that we do, in the case of Nice at Chevrolet, they have every right to go ahead and say, you know what, we'll see you later on down the line. Good luck, best of luck to you. We need to look forward to 2026 and see what we have for the rest of 2025. Is it a weird move? Yes. Is it a move I would have made? Probably not, especially since Caden Honeycutt's actually fighting for a driver's title. But they're well within their rights to do it. So this actually does explain a lot as far as all these moves that have been made by Nice Motorsports in the last couple of weeks. As weird as they are. Also out there, Hallmark Friesen Racing, they welcomed Caden Honeycutt officially last night to Richmond in the 52 truck. He took over, again, for the injured Stuart Friesen, but coming up at Bristol, he's actually going to have a teammate that's going to attempt to qualify the team's part-time number 62 truck. His name is Cole Butcher. Who? You might ask this. And here's the thing. If you don't know that name, you're not the only one. Cole Butcher is a Canadian super late model driver. Got a pretty impressive resume up in America's hat, though. Native of Nova Scotia, he's multiple-time Pro Stock Tour titleist. He's also claimed the top three in the noted Oxford 250 race up there, and recently claimed to win in the ASA Stars National Tour. He's going to bring sponsorship from the race from a company called Atlantic Title Load, and some other longtime sponsors of his late model coming in there as well. So again, he's going to take over the number 62 truck next weekend. And this'll, I have a hard time saying it's going to help. I mean, it's Bristol. Drafting is not a situation at Bristol. But he's a short track ace, so this actually could be an interesting thing. And this may be a situation where they're looking at Hallmark Friesen Racing to the future and saying, could we expand out to a 2-truck full-time operation? Or do we just want to see if we can get this short track hotshot in there and maybe he can tell us something that we've been missing and we can tweak the trucks? It could be either way. Truth be told, I really have a hard time telling either way. Jack Wood got pulled out of the race last week, really late in the week, from the Richmond race. He was supposed to race last night, but he was still feeling some pain from a pretty strong hit that he took at Watkins Glen International last weekend, and that led Bill McAnally, the co-owner of McAnally Hilgeman Racing, to go ahead and pull it. Said it was a, quote, precautionary measure due to an injury sustained at Watkins Glen International. So the 91 has been withdrawn from the event, and an update on Wood's status will be announced at a later date. After the hit, Wood was taken into the infield care center at Watkins Glen, where he was evaluated and released. But the announcement to pull him was made on Thursday, and that maybe was a little bit too late for them to find a replacement driver, I guess, that really they felt like they were comfortable with. Again, call Matt. He'd come up there. But anyway, so they pulled the 91 truck, and it knocked the entry list down to 36 trucks. So all the trucks that were entered officially made the race. You can get up to 36 trucks in there. As for the injury, Wood's recovering from it. Wasn't exactly detailed. Again, only we know is what appears to be something of a lower back injury for him. Wood is 25. He currently sits 19th in the Truck Series standings in what is, in effect, his rookie year. This is his first full-time season in the Truck Series. He's got one top 10 in his 17 starts this year. He's got 78 Truck Series starts in all, though. Best finish so far did come earlier this year. That top 10 that I was mentioning was 7th place, and it came at Rockingham. So we wish him the best. Hopefully he can return pretty soon. We're going to wrap up Truck Series news when we come back. We talked about Stuart Friesen's injury. We detailed at the beginning in the recap, or mentioned in the recap, he was not going to apply for a playoff waiver. Talk about the ramifications of that. And then, could we be seeing a new Truck Series operation?
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
The NASCAR Cup Series.
Chase Briscoe, William Byron.
For more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Thank you very much for keeping with us here on this Saturday morning, middle part of the month of August. Ooh, about 6 more weeks and maybe we start to see some cooling off here of temperatures in the south. I don't know. I was just talking about the rain up there in Milwaukee and how flooding affected a whole lot of the area, including the Wisconsin State Fairgrounds. Jeffrey, who's one of our regulars on CRN Live on YouTube, who's up in that area, let me know that the long-term forecast is, and I'm going to quote him here, long-term still dry, slight chance of rain on Monday, but other than that, nothing set for Milwaukee. So it looks like things will dry out and things will be good. Thank you very much for that update, Jeffrey. I appreciate it. All right, we're talking about the Truck Series here, and we noted in the aftermath of the injury to Stuart Friesen, for example, that there were several things that he could do for his team. One of those, he could request a playoff waiver, and he could get a medical one. We've seen this before, obviously. He qualified for the playoffs with the win earlier this year, despite not being able to race. If he had applied for it and been granted the waiver, it would have guaranteed the 52 truck, and he would have gotten 10th place. And if you make the playoffs and you get 10th place, you do get a money kind of a bonus fund money boost, right? But we also mentioned at that time, Kurt Busch had that opportunity a few years ago, and he refused it, and Stuart Friesen decided he was going to do the same thing, and what that did was open up another slot for another driver to be able to compete for the title. The team can continue their pursuit of a driver's title with Caden Honeycutt because, again, he was in the truck last night. He'll be in the truck for the rest of the year, so their driver could still win a title. The 52 truck could win the owner's title. It's an uphill battle, but it could happen. So there's that. But just Stuart Friesen decided he's withdrawing his name from the playoffs to allow 10 drivers who can physically get in the trucks and drive this year to go ahead and do it. And it's a very, very sportsmanlike move on his part. Again, I would have understood it. He's a single truck operation. Yeah, he's got the 62 truck, but for all intents and purposes, he's a single truck operation. The money boost would have been good. But this was the sporting thing to do. Congratulations to Stuart and Hallmar Friesen Racing on that. And then this popped up late last night / early this morning, and we've been wondering ever since Stellantis said we're going to bring Dodge back and we're planning on getting into the Truck Series again next season. Who's going to go with them? Because they're only going to be there with the Ram trucks next year. Because that's the easy part of it. All you got to do is get the body confirmed. And NASCAR is currently in the process of doing that. We haven't heard whether or not they've finished all the work on it, but that's all you got to do. Ilmor engines. They all run the same stock Ilmor engines in the Truck Series. Getting approval in the Xfinity and the Cup Series will take a little bit longer. So considering that you got to split it up, doesn't that make it hard for an existing team to come in? Yes, it does. But according to the Sports Business Journal and Adam Stern, they reported late last night and this morning that Kaulig Racing has been one of the teams that has notedly had informal talks with Stellantis about moving to the Ram brand next year with preparations for their expansion into Cup and or Xfinity competition with the Dodge brand when they go, again, maybe as soon as 2027. And then you might be thinking to yourself, wait, Kaulig doesn't have a Truck Series operation right now. They run full-time in the Cup and and they have the Xfinity Series arm, but they're not in the trucks, right? You're correct. For now, Kaulig says they are exploring, at least the report states, they're exploring options to get a Truck Series arm of the organization off the ground. And if you were with us when Matt was with us and doing the Hot Topics talk, apparently Spire ready to get out of the Truck Series with the thought of maybe getting into the Xfinity Series. They might be willing to sell the operation to Kaulig, who would then just rebody the trucks into Rams. All of this is preliminary. All of this is speculation. All of this is rumor until news actually comes out. But Sports Business Journal tends to have their fingers on these things pretty well. That's the reason we're mentioning this particular rumor. Now, here's the hiccup. Any team that's thinking about doing what Kaulig might be doing, if this report is correct, it would mean that they would be splitting their makers. They would be Ram and trucks, and in Kaulig's case, running Chevrolet and Xfinity and Cup. And that means they'd need to get a special dispensation from Chevrolet to allow them to run a different brand in the Truck Series. And any team that would run Chevrolet, Ford, or Toyota that was thinking about doing this would have to do the same thing. I could see, and I'll use Kaulig as this example, so I'm gonna specifically talk about Chevrolet when it comes to it. I can see Chevrolet saying, okay, Kaulig, by all means, we'll give you the special dispensation. Go ahead, enter your Truck Series team under the Ram brand. But oh, by the way, all that factory support that you've been getting in the Xfinity and the Cup Series, we're going to drop it down a tier. I'm just saying that that's the very likely probability of how that's going to work. Hope you know what you're doing, Matt Cowlick. Some drag racing news here. Man, have we been talking about the IHRA going out there and just being on that buying spree? IHRA owner Daryl Cuttle has gotten another addition to his drag racing slate of facilities. The latest to join in, Piedmont Dragway in Julian, North Carolina. This is Milan Dragway, which is now Durana Dragway, the Durana Raceway, which is formerly National Trail Raceway in Michigan, probably, 7, 8 others by now with Piedmont included. This will help Piedmont. Piedmont's going to get a needed infusion of cash because Cuttle plans to upgrade the facilities, improving the track, the parking areas. He's going to work to develop some events, wants to upgrade basically the driver and fan experience. And again, all of this is in the effort to bring the IHRA back from whatever back corner they had kind of put themselves into under the previous ownership, and now get themselves back to the forefront of drag racing and try to be that rival that they have always wanted to be with the NHRA. Press release from the IHRA said that they have 2026 taken care of. This is a double situation for them because they're looking not only to do this, again, to try and compete with the NHRA. Not only are they working on their tracks, I think they need to work on their schedule. I said that earlier this year because really they just started about a month and a half ago, really intently on their top tier, like Top Fuel, Funny Car, stuff like that, series running. And they're only going to run up until October, maybe early November. I think it's early November. And you think about that and you compare it to what the NHRA is doing, which they're running effectively from February to November. It's very different. But this is the process of Daryl Cuttle trying to get everything moving in the right direction. So a press release came out on Tuesday of this week, said that scheduling-wise, they've got 2026 taken care of. They've settled on the dates, if not the locations, for their 2026 events, which would, if that schedule held out, make them much like the NHRA, have major events spread throughout the year. Again, Daryl Cuttle bought this series back in 2024. We have noted he's bought several facilities, upgrading them, improving them, expanding out the schedule. 2026 scheduled release as of Tuesday had dates spread from the weekend of January 14th through the 17th all the way to November 4th through the 7th. At least one major race event scheduled for each month in between. April was going to get 2 dates, the weekends of April 9th through the 12th and the 21st through the 24th. And that meant that the slate would give them 12 major events on the 2026 schedule. As to where those events would be, Cuttle said that was still being finalized, but he did say this: Palm Beach, Florida would be the perfect place to kick things off, and we're excited to share where the rest of the season will take us. We're putting together events that fans and racers are going to talk about all year long. It's not just about racing, it's about creating experiences that people will want to be a part of. Well, then they switched gears real fast, like Wednesday, the very next day. They offered up a revision on the slate, said that the original news release about the season beginning in January was premature. That was based upon a working draft, and somebody jumped the gun on it. And again, stated exact location still not 100% confirmed, but now they state the 2026 season opener will be the first weekend in March. They'll have 2 race dates in April, as we noted, with single race weekends May, June, and July. And then the season will wrap up with major dates in August, September, October, with the season finale, a major event weekend taking place, don't know where yet, the weekend again of November 4th through the 7th. So this is the growing pains situation. Again, I'm hoping Daryl Cuttle isn't biting off more than he can chew here. And I state that very, very carefully because I would like to see the IHRA succeed. But we have seen these situations where an owner or an ownership group starts to think about, how are we going to get ourselves on a level with this? We're here. Our rivals are here 2-3 steps above us. How do we get to match them? And they start to do things so quickly that they outpace themselves and they can't keep up with all of the details, most notably the financial side of it. At this point in time, we've heard nothing that Darrell Cuddle's in any problems financially. I'm going to state that very clearly. We've heard nothing along those lines. But again, he's trying to do a lot in a very short period of time. And I'm just hoping he's not biting off more than he can chew, because I would like to see the IHRA succeed. And they have undergone some troubles recently. Things currently on the upswing, though. Proud to announce one of their longtime sponsors, for example, one that stuck with them through the recent low times when they were kind of over in the back corner and nobody thought about the IHRA and somebody even wondered whether they were even still a thing. Well, they've confirmed they're going to continue as a major sponsor. That company is Moser Engineering. Started off as a sponsorship in the Mountain Motor Pro Stock division, now heavily invested in the sportsman division for the IHRA, and extending their deal with Rob Moser, who's the president of the company, saying this, quote, supporting the IHRA and at Sportsman Racers isn't just something that we do, it's who we are. We've never wavered, even though through the sport's ups and downs, because we believe in the racers, we believe in the IHRA mission, and in keeping grassroots drag racing alive and thriving. And the IHRA is a little bit more grassroots than the NHRA. The NHRA tends to be a little bit more, I hesitate to use the word professional, but we've talked about the differences between the IHRA and the NHRA. It's a little bit faster. I'd like to see the IHRA start to begin to step up in speed too. But it's also cheaper to run IHRA as compared to the NHRA. And Moser Engineering understands that. So this isn't just a monetary sponsorship. Moser Engineering said they're going to continue to offer products to the racers, like product support, contingency sponsorship, trackside presence is going to be there. They'll be able to lend a hand or answer any questions that any of the racers may have in any of the divisions. So that's very important. They also stated plans to put their part-time Moser race team on the track as well. Again, it's a part-time operation, but really cool. And let's face it, not a bad way to advertise your company either. Over on the NHRA side of things, Billy Torrance has been out of the NHRA all year to this point. In fact, he hasn't actually raced in the past 9 months. But that's about to end this weekend in Brainerd, Minnesota, where the 67-year-old, who's also the founder and CEO of the Torrance family-owned Capco Contractors, you can see them right now if you're on CRN Live on YouTube. This is an old picture. Look at the mellow yellow that he's holding on to. They haven't been a sponsor for a while. But he's not just going to return. He's looking to claim trophies in not just one, but 2 separate categories this weekend in Brainerd, Minnesota. And to kind of paraphrase Nuke Lelouch in the movie Bull Durham, he wants to announce his return to NHRA racing with authority. The elder Torrance is going to be back in the family-sponsored Top Fuel entry, but he'll also try out another Capco-sponsored ride in the Super Comp category in lesser divisions. Billy said over the weekend, quote, you got to take advantage when you have the chance, and I haven't done any kind of racing this year, so I'm excited to get back at it. Watch out for him. I bet you he'll be pretty good, even though he's been out of it for a little while. Then there's Sean Reed. Sean Reed, we noted on the show last weekend, going to miss the race this weekend in Brainerd. He's also going to miss the U.S. Nationals in Indianapolis because of injuries. Plans to be back in his Top Fuel ride for the chase for the championship, but to cover the 2 races that he's going to miss, he has pulled a guy who, if you've been watching the coverage on Fox or Fox Sports, you're familiar with. His name, Jordan Vandergriff. Making sure that his ride is out on the track to better his chances of getting into the chase for the championship as well. If you're a longtime listener, you remember us talking last year how in the aftermath of the Richmond race where John Force had that injury that has, for all intents and purposes, ended his driving career, he still got points because they took a couple of weeks off. They found themselves a reserve driver, and then with 8 races left in the year, beginning specifically with this race in Brainerd 1 year ago, they put Fast Jack Beckman in the car, and Jack Beckman was accruing points, but not for himself. A substitute driver, according to NHRA rules, can accrue points for the original driver of the car for up to 8 races in a year. That's why they put him on with 8 races left, so he could fill out the year. Vandergriff is going to cover 2, maybe more, depending on how much time Sean Reed gets. But again, Reed planning on being back in the race as the chase for the championship begins. Vandergriff will race in Brainerd in Minnesota. Reed wants to fend off this attempt by JCM driver and JCM Racing to get driver Ida Zetterstrom into the chase at Reed's expense because she wasn't initially supposed to be racing this weekend in Brainerd or in Indianapolis, but they said, you know what, we're going to put her in there. Let's give it a shot. So Vandergriff will put down the Fox microphone in order to be the fill-in. He's got limited experience in Top Fuel. He's only got 11 events to his credit. His best finish came in 2019 at the Texas Nationals. He's been working with Fox ever since. So let's see how quickly he can adjust to that. And really what he's got to do is just keep the car between the walls and not let Ida Zetterstrom going out and get max points. He's got to qualify, and if he can qualify for the bracket, that'll help. And just trying to keep Ida Zetterstrom at bay. And then one more note out of the NHRA, and this comes out of Tony Stewart Racing. This is the non-dirt arm of Tony Stewart Racing. They announced on Monday they've signed funny car driver Matt Hagan to a long-term extension of his contract, terms of which were not disclosed, so we don't know how long this contract runs for, but it's a multi-year deal. But it is going to keep the 2023 champion and four-time, actually, champion of the funny car division in the Tony Stewart Racing fold for several more years. Along with Mopar and Dodge, a sponsorship will be coming from Johnson's Horsepower Garage and American Rebel Beer, amongst others. Of course, Direct Connection being a Mopar situation as well. So congratulations to them. So Tony Stewart Racing, a busy week. They signed one guy to a long-term extension, and then they go to the long-term driver in the World of Outlaws car. Thanks, but we're going to let you go. Ouch. Cup Series, little bit of Formula One, little bit of Formula E as well. And I want to talk about what's going on real close by to where we are in our home base at 95.1 The Mountain, our flagship station. Talladega Short Track's got an interesting slate tonight. If you've been listening to the radio station, you probably have heard about it. If you're on CRN Live on YouTube, you haven't, but I'll detail it because, again, it's a pretty interesting slate, and it's tonight.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
It's the great.
back to the Championship Racing Network.
Final run here as we make our way to the checkered flag here in about 15 minutes or so. And we're into the Cup Series where rumors, again, just that. We talked about the possibility of shifting the All-Star race away from North Wilkesboro to Dover. Talked about that with Matt. Again, go back and look at the early part of this if you missed it earlier on in the show. When we get done here, you can go back and go on to CRN Live on YouTube at any point in time. You can check out any part or all of the show that you might have missed, and of course the podcast Cross Flags as well. Meantime, while silly season's been affecting the Xfinity and Truck Series, Cup Series so far looking like very few moves going to be made this offseason. One thing that we know has been locked up, or at least it appears so, with a contract extension with a partner, another seat seems to be locked up. Legacy Motor Club has signed Pye Barker Fire and Safety to an extension that will see them as a primary sponsor of the 42 Toyota and John Hunter Nemechek next season. The picture that producer John's about to show you is actually the car running tonight at Richmond, so I don't expect this will be a heck of a lot different next year, maybe some slight differences. But what this does, again, they're partnering specifically with John Hunter Nemechek. 6 races next year. This all but confirms John Hunter Nemechek isn't going anywhere, and the 42 car is good to go. Statement from team owner Jimmy Johnson also seemed to settle that Nemechek was going to be back there. Quote, "We are thrilled to have Pye Barker Fire and Safety renew for next season. John Hunter and the number 42 team are great representatives of the brand, and our collective goal is to put Pye Barker back into victory lane." Okay, so that's one that seems to be settled. The only right now situation that we know of is that one car over at Trackhouse. We know that Daniel Suarez is going to be out. We're 99.9995% convinced it's going to be Connor Zillage. So that's the only driver change right now that we have confirmed. Could things change? Obviously, yes. Another one of those seats that seems safe for 2026 as well is over at Cowlig, because they seem very happy with the performance of the 10 car and driver Ty Dillon. And yeah, you can color us here at CRN quite surprised to be saying that, because we honestly thought that it might not happen. But Dillon seemed to catch fire and find life with the $1 million challenge, where despite going into it and being rated the number 32 seed in a 32 driver field, he was able to jump out there and take that unusual 5-race slate and use it to his advantage to make it to the finals, where he battled Ty Gibbs for the $1 million prize, but Ty Gibbs ultimately beat him out in kind of a, again, anticlimactic situation. Both of the drivers finished like 22nd and 28th or something like that. Wasn't really a race. So on top of that, Cowlig has now announced new sponsorship for the number 10 car. It'll be a group called DraftKings. DraftKings has been named also the official sports betting partner of Cowlig Racing. They're going to get at least 2 times on the car as a primary sponsor through the rest of the year. That'll be Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway and Kansas Speedway. In addition, there'll be an associate sponsor for the remainder of the year, placement specifically on Dillon's car and his fire suit. See whether or not that's successful enough to make DraftKings stick around and maybe expand it out a little bit next year. Time will tell. The reports that we had when it was confirmed that we were going to be running next year on a quote-unquote street course race at Naval Air Base Coronado next year in San Diego, we had heard initial reports that it might be called the Navy 250. Apparently not. They were premature. Now that they have a presenting sponsor, it's a group called Anduril. Anduril is a long-time defense products company, and they've signed on, and they're going to make the race's title officially the Anduril 250 Race the Base. You can see the logo on CRN Live on YouTube if you're there. It's almost a little bit too much. I'm just going to call it the Anduril 250, as will probably MRN, PRN, whoever it is that's covering it, and whichever TV network is covering it. Craig Stimmel, who's the senior VP and the chief commercial officer at NASCAR, said of it this, quote, "NASCAR has long been woven into the fabric of Americana, a sport that connects with fans across generations, reflecting the energy and determination that define us. Anduril is an American company pushing boundaries in defense technology, and they bring that same drive and forward-thinking mindset. So we're excited to welcome them as a title partner of San Diego Weekend and NASCAR's official defense partner." We have one. It's a great match. 2 high-performing teams coming together with a shared vision for the future, both on and off the track. Is this a one-time deal? It's kind of beginning to feel that way. Again, you think about it. Anduril 250 next year, 2026, the 250th birthday for the United States of America. But then again, NASCAR's, especially with the Cup Series, kind of known for doing 3-year projects. I don't know whether this is a 1-year deal or not, but it kind of feels that way. We're dealing with the whole, we want to try and be as patriotic as possible. What's the most patriotic thing? Bringing the main American motorsport to, a military installation on the birthday of the United States of America. I'd only be a 1-year deal. I don't know. Let's turn our attention over to Formula E, where silly season has begun in earnest now that their season is done. Robin Frien's latest round with Envision Racing is apparently at an end. Friens, who rejoined Envision for their 10th season, had been there through the last 2 years after running for ABT Cupra. Before that, he was Envision driver for 4 seasons, claiming 2 wins and 10 podium finishes. But that second stint was much less successful. And it led team principal Sylvain Philippi to say this, quote, his 2 victories and numerous podiums do stand out, but also his raw speed and ability to deliver a lap when it mattered. He's been a fierce competitor and a valued part of our team. Formula E is ever involving a championship. And as for us, the time has come for an exciting new change, so we look forward to announcing our Season 12 lineup shortly. Team officials said that they're working to finalize that driver lineup for the upcoming year. They want to make the announcement of the pair that will, they hope, move them toward a championship sometime in the month of September. A lot of talk still going on. There's one big one out there that I'm sitting here thinking, man, aren't we going to sign this kid? We'll find out. We'll talk about it more in a second. Meanwhile, Cupra Kiro needs a shot in the arm. They've been kind of a bottom feeder this year. They feel like they have it now. They've hired a new racing director. His name, Gary Paffett. Paffett moves over from the now defunct Noah McLaren Formula E operation, which marks what the team calls really a first in, they say, a, quote, series of planned additions that they're hoping will improve their fortunes. Kiro CEO, COO, I should say, Russell Hagen said this, quote, bringing Gary on board is an exciting and important step from Cupra Kiro as we continue to grow and mature as an organization. For our first season, we set ambitious targets around building a high-performance culture while laying the groundwork to become a consistent force in Formula E. Gary's skill set is unique, second to none. He's won at the highest level, both as a driver and an operator. He knows exactly what it takes to deliver world championship titles in this series. We're thrilled to welcome him to the team, and I'm confident that with his expertise, we'll be even stronger as we head into the 2025-26 season, looking to take that next step. Now, Paffett is a former driver, but he ended that aspect of his career in 2019 after 25 years. You think about it. He's a championship winner, too. He won 2 German DTM Series titles with Mercedes. He was a test driver for the McLaren F1 team. And, of course, he raced, as I noted, in Formula E early, very early on in its short history of the series with HWA Race Lab. As for Cupra Kiro, I'm sorry, I'd have to change the color look of that car. Brown over yellow, but that's a personal opinion. Some people like it. They have a couple of veteran drivers. Well, one veteran driver, Dan Ticktum. David Beckman, unfortunately, is kind of a rookie, but they didn't really produce last year, and the expectations are is that they're going to be split. They do expect the veteran Dan Ticktum back. Beckman, on the other hand, is expected to be gone. Paffett's higher, again, used to be with Noah McLaren, so maybe Jake Hughes. Jake Hughes is rumored to be the front runner to take over for that ride. But think about this for a couple of moments. The hotshot rookie Taylor Bernard, first year finished 4th in the Formula E championship points. Nobody's talking about him. What? Not just Taylor Bernard, by the way. McLaren's closure leaves plenty of others looking for work. Obviously, you got all the workers on the cars and everything. Former team principal Ian James is expected to take over at Jaguar's Formula E operation. James Barclay, they say, is set to move over from the Formula E project to McLaren's Hypercar World Endurance Challenge racing project. And again, there's Taylor Bernard. No announcements have been made. Rumors are linking him to DS Penske. This would be a great pickup for DS Penske if it happens. We'll see. Time will tell. Talked about Tony Stewart splitting with Donnie Schatz. We've mentioned that time and again here. So let's wrap things up here with the news that we deal with on a regular basis by talking Formula One. And this isn't actually an on-the-track thing. They're in their August break. This is what happens annually. They take 3, maybe 4 weeks off in August every single year. Well, they've decided that, well, yeah, the shop is effectively closed. Let's do this. Let's prepare for 2026 in a big way, something that's never really happened before. Let's team with auction house RM Sotheby's, and we're going to offer up an opportunity for somebody out there who's got a lot of money to actually get their hands on a 2026 F1 racer before they're even built. So how do you do it? The team wanted to celebrate their cars having won the Triple Crown of Motorsports, and these are the races: the Indy 500, the Monaco Grand Prix, and the 24 Hours Le Mans. McLaren is the only team to date who has a team can say that they actually have those 3 races. They won it in 1974. That was the Indy 500. 1984, they won the Monaco Grand Prix, and in 1995, they won the 24 Hours Le Mans. Why it took them 30 years to figure out how to celebrate it, I don't know. McLaren put out a statement that read, quote, "In a world first, bidders are going to have the chance to acquire a 2026 McLaren Formula One team car months before the new challenger is even unveiled to the public. The successful bidder will become the proud owner of a chassis campaigned by one of the F1 drivers, either Lando Norris or Oscar Piastri." With that much money, hopefully you get to choose it. During the 2026 Formula One World Championship season, taking delivery of their purchase in 2028. So you're going to pay millions of dollars and not get it until 2028? Actually, no, you're going to get some more. McLaren said this: in addition, a 2025 show car is going to be offered on lease until the arrival of the car. The buyer will be invited to then visit the McLaren Technology Center in Woking, Britain. Buyers will have the incredible behind-the-scenes access with McLaren Racing and the associated events as part of the purchase of the race cars. Also on offer will be McLaren's first ever LMDH hypercar from its debut season in the FIA World Endurance Championship, giving bidders a vanishingly rare opportunity of acquiring a top-flight 24 Hours Le Mans racer. Rounding out the trio of spectacular competition cars is going to be an Aero McLaren Indycar, one driven by Pato O'Ward in the 110th running of the Indianapolis 500. That will be next year. I don't know whether they're raising money for a specific purpose or whether they're just going out and having fun, but either way, some rich people are going to have the chance to own some pretty exclusive race cars. It ain't going to be me. I'll tell you that. One note here, and I got a call from my good friend Ray Tennyson, Ray as we call him. Producer John's familiar with Ray, because Ray actually got me into PA announcing. I was the track announcer at the late lamented Birmingham International Raceway. Larry Langford, you're an idiot. He is now working with Talladega Short Track. Tonight, they have a pretty special event going on. 2 special ones, actually. Number 1, they're going to have what they call a waterless boat race. You ought to look this up. There's video of these around. I'll give you a basic overview. You take a race car, you attach an old boat to it, not on a trailer, and the race car tows the boat around the track for however many laps the race is. That's a waterless boat race. That's going to be tonight. Also tonight at Talladega Short Track is a demolition derby. So if you're listening on 95.1 The Mountain, especially, this might be for you. Because I'm sure the boats are going to get messed up and there'll be some messed up cars. All in the name of fun. Gates open at 5. Racing will start about 6:30. Go on out, have a good time. Talladega Short Track's a great place if you've never been there. Love going there. I haven't had the chance to go out there as much as I want. I try to get out there, especially every Talladega Super Speedway weekend that we have NASCAR in town. That is a fantastic place. Again, we wish a happy birthday to producer John. His birthday officially yesterday. I'm about to make my way out to Northwest Alabama from East Central Alabama. We're going to celebrate it together and talk about the future of the show because we're working on some pretty cool things up there. All right. Y'all have a great week. Enjoy the racing. We'll talk to you on Cross Flags in the middle of the week and, of course, next weekend on The Big Show.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.